long-awaited video in which I promised I would make after the Star Trek Online game. Now that I'm on the Star Wars. What we're going to talk about today, and I've been out of the loop for quite some time. I'm still trying to set up my video stuff, so we're going to get right here into this raw, uncut, unedited, no music, no introduction type of stuff. We're going to talk about this little debacle that's going on with Lucasfilm and this Han Solo film. I've been out of the game a little bit for about 2-3 months, I believe. And in that time, we've seen Battlefront 2 videos, Battlefront 2 gameplay, E3, and everything. So, excited is a vocabulary word that I am coming accustomed to. Happy to see the direction of that. Happy to see where things are going. And I looked back on some of the old videos in which I did and completed. And I can't believe how accurate and predictable, accurately predictable they were as a direction in which DICE has taken with their franchise and such. So, not to veer off the road of what I want to talk about in this video here. This video in which I want to talk about is the crisis. Well, not crisis, but rumors that are coming out of Lucasfilm with the firing of Lord and Miller. They were the directors of the Lucasfilm movies, not Lucasfilm, excuse me, the Lego films, the Lego movie, and 21 Jump Street. This happened last week, I believe. So uh, then Ron Howard got hired for the position of director for this movie. Now rumors are coming out about Alden Ehrenreich's acting, needing an acting coach, firing the editor, and it is DEFCON 4 over there. So what I really wanted to do was take some time out, play a little bit of skirmish. Oh, they got the Battlefront 2 ad here. Play a little bit of skirmish and just voice my opinion about it. Voice my thoughts about Lucasfilm, the direction in which it's going into, and why we're faced with these issues right now. One of the reasons why you're facing this issue is because Lord Miller makes movies that are, I wouldn't say slapstick funny, but they're comedy films where they're kind of like Ace Ventura type of humor, where you have a movie of a comic character, a comedic character who is off cuff, improvises a lot of stuff, and goes with the flow. Now, that's all well and good. The problem with that situation is that Han Solo is not that type of character. Han Solo is not a character where you give him Ace Ventura type of situations. Now, is Han Solo a character who is often in comedic, ironic situations? Yes. His circumstances is that of a Western film where he's caught into certain circumstances and he finds his way out of it. It's no different than what happened with Han Solo in the films, in the original trilogy as well as The Force Awakens. So, where did they go wrong? Well, this stems all the way back to the hiring process. I feel like if, and I will be playing devil's advocate in this situation. So, the problem in which I have in this whole entire situation is the fact that they allowed this to go on months without end until either Kathleen Kennedy or
We need air support.
either
Get
Kathleen
the
Kennedy
uplink
or
online.
whoever put their foot
Uplink
down
station
in this
under our
process and said,
control.
look,
Defending.
we're not really getting what we want in this situation. We need to
This
get
is
rid of
Red
Lord
12,
Miller
accelerating
because
to
they're not
attack
listening
speed.
to us or they're not following our directions
Uplink station.
as to what we want. And because of that, they gotta go. So you have Lord and Miller fired, and now they're looking for a new director. So they found a new director in Ron Howard. who has a very illustrious career. Um, Willow, Rush, to name a few of the movies in which
Well
she's
done.
directed.
We've
Now,
activated the uplink.
Ron Howard brings a lot to the table. He brings stability, brings order.
Y-wing
Also,
tracking
he's
signal online.
pretty good within Lawrence Kasdan and stuff, which this is honestly, this Han Solo film is his swan song. Now, Lawrence Kasdan has a very historical and great career with Star Wars. He's brought on board for The Empire Strikes Back as a writer, screenplay writer as well. So you're dealing with someone who has history as well. This is supposed to be his last film in screenplay and writing. Since he can't direct, they probably got Ron Howard in there. So as outlets have reported that there is supposed to be this stink that's going on, where Kasdan is trying to reason with Lord and Miller. Lord and Miller didn't want to listen to him, and then it became that way every single day, and then they had these problems, and then the problems escalated to where what was translated onto film is a problem. So enter this whole can of worms which is being opened, where you have Lucasfilm running around now trying to save face. Bob Iger came out and said that the movie is on schedule and Ron Howard's going to make it a hit and everything. Keep in mind, at this point, this movie's supposed to be coming out in May of 2018. Okay? We are 11 months away from that. Almost 9. No, almost 10, excuse me. We're almost 10 months away from us supposed to be able to play this thing and go see this movie and probably deal with DLC, Battlefront 2, and all that stuff. Yada, yada, yada. There may be 60 to 70% of this film that will have to be reshot. The actor who's playing Han Solo has come out today from multiple sources that Lucasfilm was not satisfied with his acting, the way he carried the actor, the role of Han Solo. So, depending upon who you listen to, depending upon who you talk to, they're telling you don't worry about it, don't fret, don't fear it. You know, I have full faith and trust in Lucasfilm and blah, 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 blah. That's all well and good. Okay, that's all great. You know, I have no problem believing in Lucasfilm and believing that they have the right people. Kathleen Kennedy has a great history of filmmaking, being with filmmakers, dealing with the business side. You know, she makes those paychecks for a reason.
Uplink activated.
With that being said, here's my problem with this situation. And like I said, I'm going to play the devil's advocate on this side, so bear with me. But here's my issue with this. The issue I have is simply this. Number one, on the side of Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and whoever else was in charge, whether it be the big execs, all the people who have share stocks, who see these films and everything, exactly what possessed Lucasfilm
We need it operational.
to go with Lord and Miller if they didn't like their directing, if they didn't like the way that they made films, if they didn't like the way they make the movies. Now, they were aiming for a lighthearted type of approach to Han Solo, and they brought him in. Now, these were people who just made the Lego movie, they just made 21 Jump Street. So they have a resume. The resume is showing you what they're capable of doing, what they have done. At what point did that not raise a red flag to you to say, okay, maybe they're not what we're looking for. Maybe we don't want the character of Han Solo to be portrayed this way, and we want to go into a different direction. Some of the fault has to lie with Lucasfilm in this. Now, we may never hear the full story. We may never understand what truly has, happened in this type of situation in regards to what started this situation to unravel the way it has. But where there's smoke, there's fire. I've always said that. I always believe it. It's just true. Some cliches ring true. So, Kathleen Kennedy has a problem with the directors. Lucasfilm has a problem with the directors. This whole movie,
Y-wing locked
and
in.
I'm not trying to be negative, but it sounds like a train wreck. I think they hired, honestly, if you want my opinion, they hired the wrong actor to play as Han Solo. And that's not saying the actor which they got was bad. It's just, maybe it's just not cut out. In my honest opinion, I think it should have been Anthony Gruber. He looks like Harrison Ford and all that type of stuff. And instead, they went with a decision to pick a guy who, I guess for whatever reason, they thought was suitable for film. But apparently, his acting has not been up to par, so they hired an acting coach. Now, hiring an acting coach at this point, when you have, what, 3 weeks left of filming, that's not good news. There's no way that you can make this good news. There's no way you can shovel this under the rug or sweep this under the rug and say, oh, okay, it's whatever. You know, we'll address this and they're rushing the way they are because they know, like we know, that it's not good. It doesn't look good. And as long as they keep waiting around, they're going to come back July 10th. They called off the extras and everything like that to then come back and get everything done again. So this would explain why at Celebration you probably didn't see any film. You probably didn't see any pictures. You probably didn't see anything else like that. Because this thing seems to be like a mess. And like I said, I go back to what I said before. If Lucasfilm had a problem with Lord and Miller, this is where I'm playing the devil's advocate now. If they had a problem with Lord and Miller, did they not study the work in which they did before? Did they not look into the type of work that the type of movies, the direction, the way they make characters and everything like that? That kind of falls on them to say, okay, we're bringing in these directors, we want them to portray Han Solo a certain way. It's like, well, what made you not okay with it? Like, have you not been involved with the craft? Have you not had meetings with these people? Have you not understood what's been out there? So, Lucasfilm has to take some of the blame in this situation. The casting, the hiring of directors, the choices, and everything such as that has to fall on Lucasfilm because ultimately they have the final say. They're the ones that write the paychecks. They're the ones that make the final decisions in the situation. Now, here's the devil's advocate part. With all that being said, they do have a right to the type of film that they want. Kathleen Kennedy has every right to stand up there and say, hey, you know, this film doesn't really represent the Star Wars that George Lucas left for me. It doesn't really represent the vision that we want to see our characters in. This needs to be changed.
Bomber locked in.
Now, if Lord and Miller didn't want to go with that, and they wanted to, you know, march to the beat of their own drum, then, you know, you send them back and tell them to go kick rocks and to go do something else. You know, I'm not really worried about them. They'll find jobs somewhere else. It's not like, you know, they're like the average Joe who got laid off yesterday and has to, you know, downgrade in his salary or her salary. They'll be fine. But the thing about this situation that's so alarming is that the saga films are almost to an end. They can't keep going on with all these saga films and stuff, so it's going to conclude at some point. And the standoff films are going to be the ones that's actually going to have to satisfy Star Wars fans in the near future. And these problems are arising right now. And this is the second standalone film where during production you've had these issues come out in the media where you have reshoots, you have multiple problems, you have all these types of things.
The walker is defenseless.
So what's the problem? Why is it that the sagas are going as smooth as anything? You know, Rian Johnson is finished up with The Last Jedi. Said that post-production is supposed to wrap up by the end of August, which is on a tremendous schedule, as opposed to what The Force Awakens was, where The Force Awakens was still working on music probably by December, which was rushed a little bit. That's not an issue with the Star Wars franchise. The sagas are always going to be there. The problem is these films, these standalone films. So I remember that Kathleen Kennedy and all of them came out talking about the Star Wars films and how they want to bring in new directors. They want to bring in, unique
stations
thinking
available.
directors who are free to create the Star Wars world through their vision. And that's all well and good. But something tells me that there's a leash on these directors that they come in. Because this is the common denominator. And if you follow me, sometimes you know I love talking about common denominators, even though I don't like math. But there's a common denominator here. Okay? Here's the problem. Alright? This is the second standalone film that's been in pre-production, production, post-production. Wherever along that line where you now have a film that's being made from a director coming on the outside, coming in to direct a Star Wars movie from his or her vision, and they ultimately get the kibosh. It's
Y-wing tracking
it's a
signal
persistent
online.
problem that's going on. So what's the issue? What's the deal here? This is the second standalone film that has had production problems. Now, everyone wants to say that, oh, well, what happened with Rogue One happens with almost every movie. Okay, cool, and I'll agree with you. But, what made that situation successful, and what's making this one a failure? Well, for starters, the big issue here is that the directors changed, the movie changes, but yet they still have production problems. They still have issues where there's a conflict between upper management, who views the films the way they want them to be made, and the director's vision not meeting up to par. So it's telling me that the issue here is with Kathleen Kennedy and the Lucasfilm Story Group and the Lucasfilm directors and everybody involved in that, where they have a vision to where they feel obligated to stand up to the standard of what Star Wars should be in their eyes. Which is great, that's good. And I don't want to make Kathleen Kennedy the villain in this situation. I don't make anybody the villain. This is creative differences, using air quotes. But the thing is that if you're hiring these directors, in this situation to bring them on so that they can bring a unique view to the Star Wars universe, how come every time they do that, there's a circumstance that comes up to where they can't execute that vision? It's kind of weird. So, but to be fair, like I said, to be fair, that also comes into play where it's their film, it's their character. They have the right to step in and say that. But why so late? Why so late? Why did it take you so long to not see the signs here, to not see what you wanted? You call the shots at the end of the day. You write the paychecks. How is it that you did not have any knowledge about this film? You knew what they were going to do. So it's a mess. It's a mess. But the reason why Rogue One went so smoothly, and people were raising concerns back then where they were talking about where it was near the summertime, and the studio execs didn't like the film. They brought in a different director, paid him $5 million to basically finish up that film. The only difference between that situation and this situation is perhaps maybe that director budged. Said, okay, cool, whatever. Maybe Gareth Edwards stood up there and said, okay, you guys want to change my film? That's fine. That's cool. I'll play along with it. That's cool. And he still has his name on the film. You never know what they cut out of the movie. He's never going to tell you. They're never going to inform you or anything about that. But it went smoothly. They reshot the film. 60, I think it was like 70% of the film, like 60% or whatever was reshot. Most of the footage that was used in the trailer wasn't even used in the movie. So, you'll never see that movie come to the light of day. And there you go. But that ended perfectly. That situation ended perfectly. The only difference between that situation and this situation is that this one ended ugly. Where they said that maybe there was a lack of them wanting to budge. There was a lack of them wanting to budge, and they fired him and got rid of him. which they sarcastically used. Maybe she hated them because of the way they folded their socks a certain way. Go figure. But there's a persistent problem in this situation. As a common denominator. I think that the problem is the fact that you have the studios that want these characters to be a certain way, and they give these directors a leash to work on. Whereas, like, you can think as freely as you want, as long as you think freely the way we want you to think. You know, I just find it really funny and ironic that Lucasfilm, which was created by George Lucas, was created for the sole purpose of directors thinking outside the box and not adhering to the vision of the big wigs and the big execs and the people who write the checks, but rather the artists who are putting their image out there and putting their value out there to be to have their vision on the screen. So it's really starting to open up the floodgates. It's starting to open up behind the scenes as to how these processes go. How much freedom do these directors really have in this standalone universe? And by my judgment, it looks like not that much freedom. And it's I think that there's pressure on Lucasfilm to make these films as good as possible. This would be the second standalone film, but it's the second standalone film that's had trouble surrounding it. For some exact reason, they can't get the formula right. There's always these reshoots, there's always this controversy, there's always these hiring of new directors and editors and re-editing stuff and waiting until the 12th hour for this and that. I don't know. I hope they sort out the problem. I hope Kathleen Kennedy works it out. I hope Ron Howard works it out, because I love Star Wars. I love that universe. But it's a little alarming. It's a little concerning to hear, with 3 weeks left to finish the movie, you fire the director, you reset everything for a movie that's supposed to be coming out in 11 months. I don't know. You take that however way you want. But for me, doesn't sound good. Until I get proof that this process is positive, I'm really going to have to be realistic, not pessimistic, but realistic, and say this situation doesn't look good. Does not look good. It feels jumbled. It feels disorganized. It feels like a havoc wreck. And hopefully they have some footage to salvage to do, because from the looks of it, it looks like they screwed up big time on this film. And depending upon who you listen to, depending upon who tells you, a lot of people tell you don't worry about it, but I mean, I'm not worried about it per se. It's not my money. But it doesn't sound good, man. Does not sound good. Does not sound good at all. So that's the current state of Star Wars. Last Jedi comes out December of this year, which I'm looking forward to see. And the standalone film, Han Solo, did you really need the film? Not really. I think they could have used that energy to probably make another Vader film, probably make another Obi-Wan movie, which people were waiting for, another Boba Fett film, something where you didn't mess with the big three. I think they're really going to run into, if they continue this on, if they want to make a Luke Skywalker standalone film, if they want to make a Princess Leia standalone film, they're really going to run into this problem. They're going to run into an issue where they're going to have a director come in, and they're going to tell the director, you're free to film however you want, to do whatever you want, but you have to stay within this guidelines of what Luke was going to do here, and what Leia would do here, and what Han would do here. And it's going to be so much of a nerve-wracking type of process that you're going to scare directors off. My thing is, and this like 2 years in a row, these movie processes with these standalone films have not gone smooth. So my suggestion, and this is funny as anything, I always go back to Office Space. For the movie Office Space, there's this part that talks about the 30 pieces of flair. And my thing about it is very simple. And I live by this. This is the 30 pieces of flair rule. I simply say, if you want your employees to wear 30 pieces of flair, just tell them you want 30 pieces of flair to be worn. You know, don't beat around the bush. Don't hint at it. Don't give the illusion. Just tell them. Now, if Lord and Miller were given directions as to who Han Solo the character is, and they negated that, and they just went to do what they wanted to do, then you know you have no choice but to cut bait. See what other process you can do. But if you're hiring them on the basis of seeing a unique version of this character, and you know what they bring to the table, then you got to take a little bit of the blame for why this film is kind of in limbo right now, or whatever state it's in, because no one knows anything. There's no footage, there's no trailer, there's no film, there's nothing. So work it out. If the directors, if Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and all of them wanted Han Solo to be a certain way, they really should have conveyed that. If they did, fine. If they didn't, it's a learning curve, you know. Because honestly, this is the second time this type of situation happened. They reshot that movie last year because they didn't like the way it ended. They didn't like the way the process went. So, usually people say sometimes things sound worse than what they really are, and usually some things sound better than what they truly are.
The rebels have taken control.
But in this process, it doesn't look good. I hope they pull it out. I hope that the actor that they got to play as Han Solo does his job. But if this is the process moving forward, something's got to change. They can't keep making films like this, standalone movies, and it turns out this way. Got to find a solution. They better find one quick, man, because I'm telling you, May is going to be here before you know it. So that's my 2 cents on the subject. That's my thought process on the Han Solo circumstance. The Han Solo standalone movie.
The rebels have activated the uplink.
It's not
Move
good.
on that position.
Just not good at all. And there's no twist in that. So we sit and wait. I know D23's coming up. So they'll probably have something out on that. And if not, they're probably going to push The Last Jedi really further than what they expected to do so. And that's something they're going to have to work out. I wish them the best, man. But this is my video about this Han Solo debacle. I'm sure as the weeks go on, there's probably going to be more stuff coming out about this movie and what the problem with it was. Just as usual, where there's smoke, there's fire. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what needs to be done. I liked Rogue One. I liked the way it ended. I liked the fact that they had a chance to reshoot that movie and put the Vader scene in there and everything. So hopefully we can see something come from this. And something positive. But as of now, it's pretty bleak, man.